My phone buzzed, a harsh sound in the silence of the funeral home's ladies' room. I was standing there, staring at my reflection, my simple black dress looking pristine because I hadn't let a single tear fall. Not yet. The makeup I'd carefully applied at dawn, with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, was still flawless, a stark contrast to the shattered remains of my life. The text lit up the screen. Time for a fresh start. You handle the funeral. You're good at playing the martyr anyway. My hands trembled so much I almost dropped the phone. Beneath the words was a picture. Mark, my husband, his brother David, and a woman I knew was Chloe from his company, all clinking champagne flutes in what were unmistakably first-class seats, and the timestamp 10:24 a.m. It was exactly 4 minutes after the lid on our daughter Lily's tiny casket had been closed for the final time. Before we go any further, I want to say that this story, as full of pain as it is also about the incredible resilience we find in ourselves when we are pushed to the absolute limit. If you appreciate stories about finding strength in the face of betrayal and starting over, please consider subscribing. It costs nothing, and it helps our channel bring you more tales of survival and rebirth. Now let's follow Lena's journey as she turns her husband's cruelty into the foundation of a new life. I gripped the edge of the cold marble sink, a wave of nausea rising in my throat. The funeral director, Mr. Gable, would be coming to get me any second. There were 80 people out there, sitting in hushed, awkward silence, waiting for the grieving mother to walk down the aisle and begin the procession to the gravesite, but my feet felt like they were encased in cement. I read the message again. You're good at playing the martyr anyway. Just 3 weeks ago, as our 7-year-old Lily drew her last shallow breaths in the pediatric oncology unit, a place that had been our grim home for nearly a year, Mark had told me he needed to sort out some urgent work matters. He said it was to make sure we wouldn't have any financial worries after the end. I'd been too broken, too numb with anticipatory grief to even question it. I just squeezed our daughter's tiny hand and whispered that Daddy loved her so much, but had to go to work. It was just another lie in a long, soul-crushing string of them, all told to shield her from a reality that was too ugly for a child to bear. My mind flashed back to a meeting 6 months prior. I was sitting alone across from the hospital's financial advisor, signing the papers to take out a second mortgage on our home. It was the only way to pay for an experimental treatment that our insurance had flatly refused to cover. Mark's excuse for not being there? He was too emotional to handle those kinds of meetings. I remembered calling him from the hospital pharmacy, my voice cracking, when a single prescription for Lily's pain management came to $1,400 out of pocket. Just handle it, Lena, he'd said, his voice distant and impatient. So I handled it. I drained my 401k, the nest egg I'd been building since my first job, all while he was apparently handling vacation packages. A soft knock on the restroom door snapped me back to the present. Mrs. Miller? Lena? Is everything okay in there? The director's voice was a practiced blend of gentleness and concern. Just a moment, I called out, my own voice shockingly clear, and even I looked at my reflection again. My daughter was gone. My husband was on a celebratory trip to Thailand with his mistress. And for the very first time in our 16-year marriage, I saw the truth of it all. I saw myself. The woman who had shouldered everything. The mortgage payments I made from my own account. The mountains of medical debt. The gut-wrenching emotional labor, the endless, lonely vigils by my daughter's hospital bed, all of it. And all the while, Mark had been plotting his great escape. A rage, cold and clarifying, washed over me. It felt like stepping out of a thick fog and into the piercingly bright sun. I put my phone back in my small purse, squared my shoulders, and opened the door. I'm ready now, I said. I walked down that center aisle, a sea of sympathetic faces blurring on either side. I passed Lily's second-grade teacher, who was openly weeping. I saw her little friends from the neighborhood, clutching their parents' hands. their faces etched with a confusion that mirrored my own. My coworkers were there, the ones who had pooled their own paid time off so I could be with Lily during the final treatments. Not a single member of Mark's family was in attendance. Not his parents, not his aunts or uncles. Now I knew why. At the cemetery, as they lowered the small white casket into the earth, I didn't cry. I didn't collapse into a heap of sorrow as everyone seemed to expect. The ground was taking my daughter's body, but I would not let it take me, too. Instead, with every handful of dirt that I tossed onto her casket, my resolve hardened into steel. The reception afterward was a haze of whispered condolences and plates of catered food I couldn't touch. My sister Sarah stayed by my side until the very last person had left, helping the staff clean up, her eyes constantly searching my face with worry. "Come stay with me and Tom tonight, Lena. You shouldn't be by yourself," she pleaded, her hand warm on my arm. "I have some things I need to take care of here," I replied, the calmness in my voice so profound it startled even me. After Sarah finally, reluctantly drove away, I went upstairs to Lily's room. I hadn't set foot in it since the paramedics had carried her out for the last time. Her favorite stuffed bunny, Patches, was still propped against her pillows, waiting for a little girl who was never coming home. On her bedside table was a framed picture of the three of us on the beach, taken the summer before the diagnosis, before I knew the man I married was a stranger. I picked up the frame and studied Mark's smiling face. Was he already seeing Chloe back then? Was he already dreaming of a fresh start while our 5-year-old daughter was giggling and building sandcastles at his feet? The sheer coldness of his deception washed over me again. During Lily's illness, I had liquidated nearly all of my personal savings. It went to second opinions, to special organic foods that were easier on her stomach, to the gas for driving 4 hours to see a specialist in another state. Mark, meanwhile, had apparently been funneling money into a secret fund for his grand getaway. I sank onto the edge of Lily's bed, the full weight of it all pressing down on me. For a fleeting, dangerous second, I thought about just letting it all go, giving in to the grief, ignoring the betrayal, and just falling apart. It would be so much easier. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "This is Chloe, by the way. I'm so terribly sorry. Mark mentioned you wanted space to manage the funeral on your own, but please let me know if I can do anything." The absolute audacity of it took my breath away. So she didn't even know. She was just another pawn in his manipulative game, made to believe she was being compassionate while he used her as an alibi for abandoning his daughter's funeral, another lie. I didn't reply to Chloe. I didn't have the energy. Instead, with a new sharp sense of purpose, I opened my banking app. I'm a bookkeeper for a mid-sized construction firm. Numbers are my sanctuary. They are logical, they are honest, and they are my area of expertise. Mark had always been too creative and big picture to bother with our day-to-day finances. That was my job. And because of that, every single one of our assets was either in my name or held jointly. The mortgage, which I paid every month from my personal checking account because Mark's freelance income was supposedly too unpredictable. The credit cards he spent so lavishly on were all linked to my credit, which was excellent. Unlike his, which had been wrecked by student loan defaults years ago. Even his shiny new SUV was financed under my name because it got us a much better interest rate. My fingers flew across the screen. A lifetime of suppressed frustration channeled into methodical precision. I transferred funds, reset passwords, and froze cards. With every tap and swipe, the looming emotional breakdown receded. This was no longer about revenge. It was about survival. Mark had left me to bury our child alone. I would not let him leave me broke and homeless too. By 1 a.m., I had systematically locked down every single account. I rerouted all automatic payments to my now separate accounts and left exactly $97 in our joint checking. $1 for every call I knew was about to flood my phone when the reality of their situation hit them in their tropical paradise. Only then did I finally allow myself to lie down on Lily's bed, clutching Patches the bunny to my chest, and the tears came, a tidal wave of them, not just for my sweet girl, but for the life I had believed in, for the man I thought would be my partner through the worst day imaginable. Tomorrow would bring a storm of consequences. I knew that, but as I finally drifted into an exhausted sleep, I felt something stir beneath the layers of grief and rage. It was a flicker of power, a sense of self I had forgotten I even possessed. Mark thought he was escaping to his new beginning. He had no idea that I was starting one of my own. I woke just before sunrise, Lily's stuffed bunny still tight in my arms. For a single, merciful second, I forgot. Then it all came crashing back, a physical weight in my chest. But the paralyzing grief that had been my constant companion for months had been forged overnight into something harder, something sharper. My phone showed 19 missed calls, all from international numbers. They had hit their first roadblock. I put the phone on silent and made my way to the kitchen. With a mug of strong, black coffee, I sat at the dining room table, the same table that had served as my home office for the last 10 years. The irony was not lost on me. The very career Mark had always subtly dismissed as just bookkeeping was now my most powerful weapon. Numbers had always made sense to me in a way people never did. A balance sheet can't lie to you. An expense report can't hide its secrets from someone who knows exactly where to look. I'd taken over our finances about 4 months into our marriage. After Mark had bounced the rent check and the electric bill in the same week I'm a creative. Lena, not an analyst, he'd said with that disarming smile that used to make my stomach do flips. You're just so much better at this stuff. What started as a simple household budget grew as Mark's freelance graphic design work took off. I was the one who tracked his invoices, filed his quarterly taxes, and quietly cleaned up his constant financial messes. When we bought our house 8 years ago, the down payment came from an inheritance my grandmother had left me. When his first sports car was repossessed because he'd forgotten to make the payments for 3 months, I co-signed on the new one, leveraging my pristine credit score. And when Lily got sick, I was the one who navigated the nightmarish labyrinth of medical billing codes, insurance pre-authorizations, and pharmacy payment plans, all while holding down my full-time job and spending every other waking moment at the hospital. I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheets, meticulous color-coded records of every penny that had moved through our lives for 16 years. Contrary to what Mark might think, my actions last night weren't a rash, emotional outburst. I had simply activated the contingency plan I'd mentally drafted months ago, back when I first started noticing the odd withdrawals from our savings. $500 here, $1,000 there, just small enough to fly under the radar, but I notice everything. At the time, I'd let myself believe he was planning a surprise trip for us for when Lily got better, a foolish, desperate hope. The truth was just so much uglier. My first call of the day was to our mortgage company. I need to discuss a hardship forbearance, I explained to the agent. My voice, even and professional, I've been the sole provider making payments due to my daughter's extended illness and her recent passing. I need to arrange a temporary hold while I get my finances in order. The agent's tone immediately softened at the mention of Lily's death. It's amazing how accommodating people become when you tell them your child just died. One of the few grim advantages of living this nightmare. Next, I called the credit card companies. I didn't cancel the cards. That would have triggered an immediate alert to Mark. Instead, I reported suspected fraudulent charges on our joint accounts, which would freeze them while they investigated. For his personal cards, where I had added him as an authorized user years ago, it was even simpler. I just had him removed. By lunchtime, I had methodically cut off every avenue of financial access for him. While fortifying my own position, I printed out every confirmation email and every reference number, filing them neatly in a new manila folder I labeled Fortress. The name felt right. I was building walls around what little I had left. My phone buzzed incessantly. I ignored it until a familiar name popped up. I answered. "What the hell did you do, Lena?" Mark's voice was a high-pitched mix of fury and panic. I could hear the tinny sound of airport announcements in the background. "Hello to you too. How's Thailand? I hear the weather is beautiful. Don't you play games with me. My cards are all declined. The hotel is about to call the authorities on us. That sounds like a you problem, Mark." My voice was eerily calm, as if I were discussing the weather. "This isn't a joke, Lena. We're stranded here." "We? You mean you, David, and your girlfriend? The one you were celebrating with on the day we buried our daughter?" A beat of silence. Then I can explain. "I buried our little girl yesterday, Mark, by myself, while you were taking selfies for your fresh start." "You don't understand," he stammered. "Oh, I think I understand perfectly. You're celebrating new beginnings, aren't you? Starting over without the burden of a sick child and a martyr wife." I threw his own words back at him, each one a perfectly aimed dart. That text? That was just the truth? Finally? I heard him hiss something to someone, probably David. When he came back on the line, his voice had shifted, becoming syrupy and conciliatory, the voice he always used when he wanted something. "Honey, I know you're hurting. You have every right to be. But this isn't the way. Just transfer enough for plane tickets. We'll sort this out when I get home." No. The finality of that single word seemed to physically stun him. "What do you mean, no? It's a complete sentence, Mark. You're a creative guy. Figure it out." I hung up and blocked his number. The house felt cavernous in the silence that followed. I found myself wandering from room to room, each one a ghost of Lily's laughter, each one a stage for a life that now felt like a complete work of fiction. In the office, I started to gather the documents I'd need for the divorce lawyer I planned to call first thing in the morning. As I pulled files from the cabinet, a small leather-bound book fell out from behind a stack of old tax returns. I didn't recognize it. I opened it and saw the careful, rounded handwriting of a child on the first page. Lily's top-secret journal, no parents allowed, especially mom, dad. My heart seized. This had to be from before she got too sick to write. I hesitated, feeling like a trespasser. These were her private thoughts, but she was gone. These pages were all I had left of her inner world. The first entry was from her 7th birthday. "Daddy promised we would go to the zoo today, but he had to work again. Mommy made me a cake with pink frosting, and we went to see the seals by ourselves. She said Daddy will come next time. I wish next time was today." Such simple words, yet they cut me deeper than all of Mark's calculated cruelty. I was about to close the book, not sure I could take any more pain, when a folded piece of paper slipped out. I unfolded it. It was a crayon drawing of a small stick figure with bright yellow hair, holding hands with two taller figures. Underneath, in Lily's developing script, it said, "When I grow up, I want to help people with their money like Mommy does." It felt like a key turning a lock deep inside me. This wasn't just about punishing Mark anymore. This was about honoring the little girl who had been watching me, who had seen my quiet competence not as a burden, but as a strength. My phone rang again. David. I hit decline and placed Lily's journal gently on my desk. There were more battles ahead, I knew. But for tonight, I would just read my daughter's words. I would let her show me the way forward. I curled up in Lily's reading nook, a cushioned window seat we'd built together during her all too brief remission. Above me, the fairy lights we'd strung up cast a soft, twinkling glow. Outside, the world was dark, but I couldn't bring myself to turn on any other lights. The journal felt heavy in my lap. I traced the embossed letters of her name, worn smooth by her small hands. Was this a betrayal? Violating the last bit of privacy my daughter had? The logical part of me knew she was beyond such earthly concerns, but my entire being was programmed to protect her, even from myself. "I'm so sorry, my sweet girl," I whispered into the quiet room. "I just need to hear your voice one more time." I opened to an entry from just after her birthday. Today, in class, Mrs. Davis asked what our parents do for work. I said my mommy is a numbers helper and my daddy draws pictures on the computer. Jason said drawing isn't a real job, and I got mad. Daddy's job is real. He just has to do it in different places, sometimes at his friend's office when he doesn't come home for dinner. My breath hitched. Even then, at 7 years old, she was defending him, weaving narratives to make sense of his absences, to make them okay. I flipped through pages filled with the beautiful, ordinary thoughts of a little girl, a detailed ranking of the best Disney princesses. Belle was first. A complaint about a girl at school named Brittany who always hogged the swings. A solemn declaration that she would one day marry either the boy from her reading group or Thor. Normal. It was all so painfully normal. And then I found the entry dated 3 days after her diagnosis. The doctor said I have a sickness in my blood. Mommy cried in the car on the way home, but she pretended she was just coughing. Daddy looked at his phone a lot. I'm scared, but I don't want them to know. Mommy says I'm the bravest girl in the world. I have to be brave for her. Tears blurred the words. I thought I had been so strong for her, so careful. All those nights I spent sobbing in sterile hospital bathrooms, splashing my face with cold water and practicing a smile in the mirror before I walked back into her room. And she knew. She knew all along. The entries became sparser as the treatments took their toll. Some pages were just doodles of her and patches. The bunny others had hospital bracelets taped to them. But one, from about 6 months into her fight, made me stop. Daddy came to visit today. He brought me a new game and stayed for 2 whole hours. When Mommy went to get coffee, he told me a secret. He said sometimes grown-ups get really, really sad and scared, and they do things that look mean, but they don't mean it. He said if he isn't here a lot, it's not because he doesn't love me, it's because it hurts him too much to see me this sick. I told him I understand. It's okay to be scared. I had to set the journal down, my whole body trembling with a fresh wave of rage. He had poisoned her with his weakness. He had manipulated our sick child into comforting him, into absolving him of his own cowardice. After taking several deep, ragged breaths, I picked it up again. The entries were few and far between in the final months. Short observations about a funny nurse or a TV show she liked. Then, about 3 weeks before the end, I found an entry that was different. The handwriting was faint and shaky, but the words were sharp. Nurse Carol is helping me write this because my hands are too tired. I dreamed I was a butterfly last night. I could fly, and my tummy didn't hurt. I wasn't scared anymore. I think maybe dying is like being a butterfly. Mom keeps saying we'll beat this, but I know she's just saying it. I wish she would talk to me for real. Dad wasn't here again. The last time he came, he was on the phone in the hall. He was talking about Chloe and how everything is so complicated, Mom thinks I don't hear them whispering. But hospital walls are very thin. My fingers went cold. She knew all those months I had spent trying to build a fortress around her, to protect her from the ugliness of the world, from Mark's betrayal, and she had known the entire time. 2 pages later, I found the entry that shattered what was left of my heart. I made Dad promise me something today. I asked him to take care of Mom after I go to be a butterfly. He started crying and said of course he would. I hope he wasn't lying. Mom needs someone to make her laugh again. She never laughs anymore. I don't want her to be alone. He had promised her. He had looked our dying daughter in the eye and promised to care for me, and then he booked a first-class ticket to paradise for the day of her funeral. The final entry was dated just 2 days before she slipped into the coma from which she would never wake. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone now. I'm sorry. I tried so hard to stay. Please don't be sad forever. Remember we were going to open a bakery? The one with the blue door and cupcakes with way too much frosting? You should still do it. You can name a cupcake after me. Make it have lots of sprinkles. A small postscript was added at the bottom. P.S. I know about Dad and Chloe. It's okay. Some people aren't strong like you are, Mom. Some people run away. Don't be mad at him forever. But don't let him make you feel small either. You're the strongest person I know. And then, one last line. P.S. It's okay if you find someone else to love. I just want you to be happy. That's my last wish. I closed the journal, pressing it to my chest as gut-wrenching sobs finally tore through me. My brilliant, perceptive, beautiful child, she had seen it all. Mark's weakness, my desperate attempts to hold everything together, the deep, ugly cracks in our family, and she had shouldered that knowledge silently, comforting me when I should have been the one comforting her. When the wave of tears finally passed, I felt different. The sharp, vindictive pleasure I'd taken in freezing Mark's accounts now felt cheap and hollow. Lily wouldn't want me to be consumed by revenge, but she also wouldn't want me to just roll over. Don't let him make you feel small, she had written. She had seen my strength long before I had. I picked up my phone and looked at the call log. It was now up to 42 missed calls from a cluster of international numbers and a barrage of texts, each one more frantic than the last. I wasn't ready to deal with that yet. First, I needed a plan that would honor the woman my daughter believed me to be. I went to my office, opened a new spreadsheet on my laptop, and titled it Lily's List. The first item I typed was bakery with a blue door and too much frosting. The second was live with strength, not bitterness. As the first light of dawn began to creep into the dark house, I looked at the list. It wasn't just a to-do list, it was a map for navigating the rest of my life. My daughter had given me one last priceless gift, permission to be happy, and the wisdom to know that I had to fight for it. I would make Mark face what he had done, but I wouldn't let that fight destroy me. That was not the legacy my Lily deserved. 3 days after I found the journal, I was placing a small bouquet of wildflowers on Lily's grave when my phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. We're back at JFK. Mark has nowhere to go. He's a complete wreck, Lena. Can we please talk? It's David. I didn't answer. Let them wait. The crisp spring air smelled of damp earth and new life. I traced the letters of Lily's name carved into the granite. I'm trying, sweet girl, I whispered. I'm trying to find the right way. That evening, my doorbell rang. I was at the dining room table poring over the initial paperwork from the divorce attorney I'd retained. Through the peephole, I saw 3 exhausted, disheveled figures on my porch, Mark, David, and Chloe. Mark, who was always so meticulously put together, looked like a ghost. His expensive clothes were wrinkled, his face was covered in stubble, and his eyes were bloodshot and hollow. My first instinct was to keep the door locked, but that wasn't the path I had chosen. I took a deep breath, unlocked the deadbolt, and opened the door, positioning myself to block the entryway. We have to talk, Mark said, his voice raspy. You have to talk, I corrected him. I don't have to do anything. David, ever the family peacekeeper, stepped forward. Lena, please. We had to borrow money from a friend just to get economy tickets home. The hotel in Thailand was holding our passports until the embassy got involved. We're running on empty. That does sound difficult, I said, my voice flat. Almost as difficult as planning a child's funeral by yourself. Chloe hung back, her face pale, looking nothing like the carefree woman in the champagne photo. Her eyes darted between Mark and me. Against my better judgment, I stepped back. You have 20 minutes. They filed into the house I had paid for. Mark made a beeline for the liquor cabinet, a reflexive habit, but I moved to block him. Not in this house, not anymore. He flinched as if I'd slapped him, then retreated to the sofa. David and Chloe sat awkwardly on the love seat, a visible foot of space between them. I remained standing, the power dynamic in the room clear. You've ruined me, Mark began, his voice thick with accusation. No, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I just stopped enabling you. We were married for 16 years. In that time, I paid the mortgage, I covered our daughter's medical care. I kept this family financially afloat while you did. What exactly? Planned your escape? Built a side life with her? I gestured to Chloe, who turned a deep shade of red. It wasn't like that, Chloe whispered, her voice trembling. He told me you two had been separated for months, that you wanted him to move on. Oh, really? When did this supposed separation occur? I asked, turning my full attention to her. Was it during Lily's chemotherapy, or maybe during her bone marrow transplant? Chloe's eyes widened in horror. She turned to Mark. You said she was in remission. You said... He says a lot of things, I cut in, reaching for Lily's journal on the coffee table, like promising our dying daughter that he would take care of me after she was gone. Mark went white. You read her journal? Every single word, I said, opening it to a bookmarked page, including the part where she wrote about overhearing your phone calls with Chloe, the part where she said, hospital walls are very thin. David shot to his feet. You were having an affair while she was dying? Mark, you told me it started after. David, it's complicated. Mark mumbled, no, it's actually incredibly simple, I said, closing the book. Lily knew everything. And she protected you, Mark. A 7-year-old girl fighting for her life spent her precious energy protecting her father from being seen as the coward he was. The silence in the room was heavy and suffocating. Chloe was silently crying. David was pacing, running his hands through his hair. Mark just stared at the floor. I can't defend it, he finally said, but you didn't have to ruin me financially. You did that to yourself, I countered. For 16 years, I carried us, I built this life, and you took the credit. I was the foundation, and you were the fancy, unstable facade. So what do you want, Lena? David asked quietly. The house? Money? I almost laughed. I already have those things. In a very real sense, they were always mine. Then what? Mark demanded, his voice cracking with desperation. I sat in the armchair opposite him, placing Lily's journal on the table between us. I want you to understand what you threw away. Not just a comfortable life. You threw away the chance to know your own daughter. This brilliant, funny, compassionate little person who saw all of our flaws and loved us anyway. My voice was steady. My lawyer advises me to take you for everything. He believes we have more than enough grounds. Mark's face crumpled. But that's not what Lily would have wanted, I said softly. So here are my terms. I pulled 3 copies of a legal document from the folder on the table. You will relinquish any and all claims to this house and everything in it. You will assume full responsibility for all your personal debts. I will transfer $5,000 into a new bank account for you. It's enough for a security deposit and first month's rent somewhere. Nothing more. $5,000? He said, looking up in disbelief. After 16 years. You should be thanking her, David muttered. She could leave you with nothing. I continued as if they hadn't spoken. In exchange for my generosity, you will sign over your half of Lily's college fund, which I solely established and funded, to the Pediatric Cancer Research Foundation, and you will agree, in writing, to attend a minimum of 6 months of grief counseling. Grief counseling? He scoffed. I don't need... It's non-negotiable, I said, pushing the papers across the table. Lily believed you loved her. Whether that was true or not, you owe her memory that much. Chloe finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't know about any of this. The funeral, her being so sick. She turned to Mark, her face a mask of disillusionment. You let me believe this was something honest, Chloe, he started, but she cut him off. I can't be a part of this. She stood, grabbing her bag. I am so sorry for your loss, Lena, truly. I never would have... Her voice trailed off as she fled out the door. David watched her go, then looked at his brother with profound disappointment. You lied to everyone, even me. Mark sat there, a broken man. The charming, confident artist I had married was gone, replaced by this hollow, desperate stranger. Sign the papers, Mark, I said quietly. Do it for Lily. His hand was shaking as he picked up the pen. As he scribbled his name on each page, I felt no joy, no sense of victory, just a deep, aching sadness for the family we could have been, and a quiet certainty that I was doing the right thing. I was honoring Lily's last wish, to be strong, but not to be consumed by hate. David signed as the witness and then helped his brother to his feet. At the door, Mark turned back to me, his eyes filled with tears. I did love her, Lena. I really did, in my own way. I thought of 100 things I could say, 100 ways I could wound him. Instead, I just said, "I know you believe that, goodbye, Mark." As the door clicked shut, I went back to my laptop and added a third item to Lily's list: find a way forward with grace. The house felt different. It was still filled with grief, but the toxic energy of betrayal was gone. The reckoning had come, but it wasn't the fiery explosion I had once imagined. It was a quiet, deliberate reclaiming of my own story. Spring gave way to summer, which bled into the golden hues of autumn. An entire year passed. The first anniversary of Lily's death arrived with a weight I hadn't expected. I woke up that morning, bracing myself to be pulled back under by the tide of grief. Instead, I felt a quiet, steady sense of purpose. I'd taken the day off from work, assuming I'd want to hide from the world, but as sunlight streamed through the new, bright yellow curtains in my bedroom, a far cry from the somber gray Mark had insisted on, I knew I didn't want to be alone at the cemetery. I didn't bring flowers. I brought a folding table, a small camp stove, and a very confused-looking woman named Diane from the grief support group I had joined. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Diane asked, eyeing the bag of flour as I set up next to Lily's headstone. Her own son had passed away from leukemia just a few months after Lily. "Completely," I said, laying out bowls and measuring spoons. "Lily and I always dreamed of opening a bakery. Today we're having a pop-up shop." By noon, we had been joined by 5 other parents from our group. We baked cupcakes right there among the gravestones, sharing stories of our kids, our laughter mixing with our tears. The groundskeeper gave us a wary look at first, but when I offered him a cupcake with an obscene amount of sprinkles and explained, he just nodded and quietly went to get his own folding chair. "To Lily," I said, raising a cupcake piled high with pink frosting. "Who taught me that you can hold joy and sorrow in the same hand?" As the others raised their cupcakes in a bittersweet salute, I knew I was honoring her in the way she would have wanted, with community, not isolation, with sweetness, not just sorrow. The following week, my divorce was finalized. The process had been drawn out by Mark's occasional attempts to renegotiate, but each time I had my lawyer simply refer him back to our signed agreement. He signed everything, my attorney, a sharp woman named Helen, said as she slid the final decree across her desk. I scanned the document, my eyes landing on Mark's familiar signature. Just like that, 16 years of my life were concluded in legalese. "How do you feel?" Helen asked gently. I thought for a moment. "Lighter," I said, and I was surprised to find it was true, like I've finally put down something very heavy. On the way home, I stopped by a small, rented office space in a quiet part of town. The new sign on the glass door read, "The Lily Pad Project, Financial Guidance for Grieving Families." The idea had formed slowly, starting when I helped Diane navigate the mountain of medical bills and insurance denials that had threatened to drown her after her son's death. I realized my unique combination of professional skill and personal experience could be a lifeline for others. I unlocked the door, breathing in the scent of fresh paint. The walls were a pale, hopeful blue, Lily's favorite color. I had set up a small, comfortable play area in the corner for kids who had to tag along with their parents. I would keep my day job 2 days a week for the steady income, but for the other 3, I would be here, helping families untangle the financial knots of illness and loss, all on a sliding scale they could afford. Back at home, I walked through the rooms I had slowly reclaimed. The formal living room was now a cozy library filled with books and comfortable chairs. Lily's room had been the hardest. For months, the door had remained closed. Then one day, I opened it. Half the room is still her sanctuary, her books, her rock collection, her beloved Patches the bunny. But the other half is now my creative space, where I paint messy watercolors and write notes of encouragement to the families I work with. I'm not erasing her. I'm making space for my own life to grow alongside her memory. That evening, I sat on the back porch with a glass of wine. The once manicured garden was now a beautiful, intentional chaos of wildflowers and herbs. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister, Sarah. "Just checking in on you today, love you." As I was typing back, an email notification popped up. It was from David. We'd had almost no contact since that awful night. Curious, I opened it. "Lena, I wanted to let you know that Mark started his counseling last month. He's staying with me for now, but is looking for work out in Colorado. I also drove by your new office space the other day. It looks amazing. Lily would be so proud of you. David." Unexpected tears filled my eyes, not tears of grief, but of peace. I hadn't destroyed Mark, though I'd had the power to. In choosing restraint, I'd found a different kind of strength. My revenge had become my purpose. I closed my eyes and pictured Lily on the porch swing next to me, her legs swinging, a cupcake with extra sprinkles in her hand. "We're gonna be okay, sweet girl," I whispered into the twilight. The ache in my chest would never fully disappear. It had simply changed its shape, from a crushing burden to a cherished weight I now knew how to carry. In my quiet garden, in the home I had rebuilt from the ashes, I finally understood. The opposite of grief isn't happiness, it's purpose. And in honoring my daughter by helping others, I had finally found mine. If Lena's transformation from a victim of betrayal to a beacon of strength resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button. Your support allows us to continue sharing these powerful stories of survival. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think what she did with the finances was justified? How would you have reacted in her shoes? End of story.